At 6 in the morning on some ordinary Monday, the phone alarm doesn't ring, it strikes. A metallic blow that fires a shot of cortisol straight through the body. Before I even open my eyes, my body already knows what's coming. The machine. I remember the texture of the sheets, the weight of my eyelids, the pressure in my chest, a dull anxiety. An inner voice whispering in the dark of the room, "Here we go again, just endure. Just 5 more days and I can be myself. Just a few more years and I'll finally rest." I lived for decades on that promissory note called tomorrow. I believed I was building a future. Every extra hour, every meeting that stole a family dinner, every email answered in a rush while I showered in my mind. Each one was a solid stone placed into the wall of my security. I felt important. I felt productive. I felt like I was winning. But today, at 84 years old, sitting here with the ruthless clarity that only accumulated time can give, I look back and see the truth I refuse to face. I wasn't building a castle. I was burning my vital energy on the wrong things, structures made of other people's expectations, fear of not being enough, and a frantic chase for approval that in the end never filled the emptiness inside me. This video isn't about the end of life. It's about the end of an illusion. Many of you listening right now are exactly where I once was, on autopilot. You're alive, your heart beats, your lungs expand, your brain processes data, but existentially you're in a coma. You're pushing life forward like someone hauling a heavy load, waiting for a mountaintop that never arrives. While the landscape around you, the only one that truly matters, slips by unseen. So I ask you, with the urgency of someone who knows time is finite, if tomorrow never came, what would be left of who you are today? If we stripped away your job title, your bank balance, and the things you bought to numb your routine, who would be standing beneath that wall? Today, I want to tell you how I stopped merely surviving and finally began to live. The truth hurts, but it's the only thing that frees your time for what actually has a soul. Survival is a silent disease. It doesn't arrive with sirens or sudden tragedy. It settles into small habits, into what we call a normal routine. In the prime of my youth, I was proud of my autopilot. I believed being productive meant being a machine. I woke before sunrise not to watch the dawn, but to beat traffic. I drank coffee standing up, too hot just to jolt an exhausted nervous system awake. I didn't taste the beans or feel the warmth of the cup. Coffee was just fuel to keep the machine from stalling. That was the first great loss of survival, the taste for simple things. When you live only to reach the next appointment, your senses begin to die. I walked past gardens and didn't see flowers, only obstacles or background scenery for my mental problems. I ate expensive business lunches in renowned restaurants. But if you asked me 10 minutes later what the food tasted like, I couldn't tell you. My taste buds were too busy processing numbers, deadlines, and fear of failure. Living on autopilot is like watching a black and white film while the world outside explodes in color. During that time, my creativity, the one that made me draw as a child or invent bedtime stories, was brutally murdered. The system didn't want my soul. It wanted my function, and I gave it exactly that. I traded my ability to create for my ability to repeat tasks efficiently. I became an excellent executor of other people's dreams, while my own rotted in some forgotten drawer of youth. And the highest cost, the one that weighs heaviest on my 84-year-old shoulders, was my connection with my children. I was there physically, sitting on the couch, but my mind lived inside a spreadsheet. I watched my children grow as if I were fast-forwarding through a documentary. I missed the nuances, the shift in tone, the glow of a new discovery, the pain of a small school disappointment. I thought giving them the best meant an expensive school and the latest video game, without realizing that what they needed most was my gaze, a gaze not drifting toward the clock. We stop living when we start treating the people we love as tasks to complete at the end of the day. Pay attention to the kids. Check. Dinner with my wife? Check. But the heart wasn't in the check mark. The heart was already chasing the next goal, the next rung, the next stone in the wall. You know the layout of your living room, but you don't know the soul of the person sharing the roof with you. You know the price of everything, but you've lost all sense of the value of one shared minute of silence. I thought I was securing their future. Today I know I was only ensuring that one day they'd remember a father who was always almost there, but never fully present. When the soul grows exhausted from mere survival, it desperately searches for anesthesia. In my case, and I believe in many of yours, it came in two main forms: the shine of store windows and the blue glow of screens. I worked 10, 12 hours a day. I came home carrying a hollow feeling no meal could fill. It was hunger for life, but I mistook it for hunger for possession. I'd walk through a mall thinking, I work so hard, I sacrifice so much peace. I deserve this new watch. Impulse buying became my consolation prize. For a few minutes, carrying that shopping bag, I felt a dopamine hit that mimicked happiness. It felt like I was taking control of my life, but the opposite was true. Every new object demanded more work to maintain it, protect it, upgrade it. I was a slave buying my own chains and calling them achievements. Today I see many of you escaping into what I call the blue labyrinth. Entire nights on the couch beside your spouse, yet miles away. Silence, except for fingers sliding across glass. Social media isn't used to connect, but to distract from reality. Watching other people's lives, trips, victories, and using them either to validate your own unhappiness or to fuel a quiet envy that pushes you to want more. The phone becomes a refuge from silence, because silence is dangerous. In silence you ask, is this it? Is this really my life? Screens offer us a sanitized, edited version of existence. Hours spent polishing a digital storefront, posting moments barely lived, just so others think you live intensely. A cruel irony, proving happiness to an audience of strangers, while having no time or energy left to actually be happy with those beside you. Now at 84, I look at drawers full of obsolete technology and clothes long out of fashion. None of it speaks. None of it warms me in the winter of old age. But the hours I spent working, those hours are missed. They're the time I could have spent listening to my father's stories, teaching my son to ride a bike without rushing, or simply looking at the sky and thanking it for another day alive. We stop living when we trade being for shoeing. When the shine of trivial things becomes more seductive than the light in the eyes of those who love us, we're no longer building a life, we're just decorating our isolation. For years, I was fed one of the greatest lies of our century, the promise of when. That word dangled like a carrot before a workhorse. When I get promoted, I'll have peace. When I hit that revenue goal, I'll spend more time with my family. When I have status, I'll be respected. I'll finally feel like someone. I believed financial security was an absolute synonym for peace. The more money I made, the safer I thought I'd be from life's storms. I chased status like armor. I wanted my job title to speak for me before I ever opened my mouth. I wanted respect born of fear of losing me professionally, not the respect that comes from love for who I was as a human being. The system teaches us that self-worth is earned out there, in corporate hallways or success rankings. It convinces us that we are what we produce, and I produced a lot. I was the first to arrive and the last to leave. The man of unshakable results, but inside I was hollow, propped up only by the opinions of co-workers and society, people who applauded my usefulness, not my existence. The most emblematic moment of this realization didn't happen during a big fight, but on a sunny Sunday at a birthday lunch. I see it now like an old movie. We were all at the table, my parents, my wife, my children. Laughter rose, the smell of home-cooked food filled the air. And what was I doing? Answering a work email about a problem I now know was irrelevant. I was physically present, but my soul had been kidnapped by notifications. I traded my father's joke and my daughter's confession for emails that are now nothing but digital trash. There, at that family gathering, I committed the crime of being absent while present. At 84, the memory of that day hurts more than any financial loss. Today I see it's easier to deal with a screen than with the emotional needs of a child asking for attention. Easier to scroll a feed than to look your spouse in the eye and admit you're exhausted and lost. The realization was devastating, while I chased recognition from colleagues who don't even remember my name today. I was becoming a ghost to the only people who would truly mourn my absence. Grieving lost time is a heavy burden. It's realizing some phases never return. I lost my children's childhood waiting for the ideal moment to be with them. I lost the chance to know the depths of the woman I married because I was always too busy being a provider, forgetting to be a partner. Why does the truth hurt so much when we finally face it? Because it comes with responsibility. Admitting I wasted years means I can no longer blame the system, my boss, or the economy. The fault was mine. I made the choices, and now I had to carry the weight of knowing I squandered my most precious asset. Yet even in grief, there was a seed of liberation. The pain of realizing lost time was the shock I needed to change. If I couldn't alter the past, I had a moral obligation to save what remained of my present. I learned that life doesn't happen in major career milestones, but in the small daily moments I used to dismiss. Life was in the silence of breakfast, in the courage to ask my children for forgiveness for my emotional absence, in the decision to finally tear down the routine that separated me from those I love. Reaching 84 is like climbing a high mountain and, for the first time, seeing the entire path behind you. Down below, cities look small, and the worries that once stole my sleep now resemble insignificant ants. From the summit, the view is crystal clear, and the first thing you see is the end of the road. In the silence, old age sits beside me on the couch and asks the question I wish I'd heard when my legs were still strong. If today were your last day, how would you live it? In youth, I lived as if immortal. I postponed happiness to a hypothetical future because deep down I didn't believe my time could end. I treated life as an infinite resource. But the truth is that every passing second is a gold coin dropping into a deep ocean. You'll never see it again. If today were my last day, I assure you, I wouldn't spend a single minute checking my bank balance. I wouldn't remember one spreadsheet delivered on time. I wouldn't miss the prestige of a role already filled by someone else 3 days after I left. How would I live it? I'd live it in the details. I'd watch the way sunlight enters the kitchen window. I'd spend hours listening to my grandchildren's repeated stories, feeling the warmth of their hands in mine. I'd eat fruit slowly, tasting every nuance without hurry, without thinking of the next step. I'd say I love you to everyone who lives in my heart, not as a sad goodbye, but as a celebration that they existed in my journey. The painful discovery I made is that most of us spend our lives preparing to live without ever actually doing it. We pile stones for a wall because we fear the vulnerability of an open life. But detachment from other people's opinions, from the hunger for status, from empty goals, is the only thing that lets us walk lightly. Living with awareness of finitude means understanding that life's beauty lies precisely in its fragility. Flowers wilt, that's why their scent is precious. People leave, that's why today's embrace is sacred. If your tomorrow never came, what would remain of who you are today? A trail of kindness or just a list of completed tasks? Memories of presence or only a browsing history on your phone? I threw away my desire to be important to the world and traded it for the desire to be essential to the people I love. I abandoned the rush to get there and discovered that there is exactly where my feet are now. After decades, I chose to be reborn. At 84, I have no time for abstract theories. I have urgency for practice. And the manifesto I leave you, who still has a chance to change course at 30, 40, or 50, rests on 3 fundamental pillars. The first is radical disconnection from virtual life. I'm not saying throw your phone away. I'm saying reclaim control of your gaze. Real life has no filters, no algorithms, and no pause button. I decided that when I'm with the people I love, my phone isn't a guest. It stays in another room. Because the greatest gift you can give someone today, in a world starving for attention, is your absolute presence. Learn to look into eyes again. Learn to hear what's said between the silences. Remember, every meeting could be the last. Treat it with the reverence a farewell deserves. The second is redefining well-being. I stopped seeing physical and mental health as luxury items on a schedule. I realized too late that my body is the only place I truly live. Caring about what you eat, allowing yourself restorative sleep, and above all, practicing mental hygiene isn't selfish. It's what allows you to show up whole for the world. Without mental health, financial security is just a gold bed for a man who can't sleep. Understand what you truly need to function in peace and defend that space fiercely. The third is embracing simplicity. At 52, I thought I needed mansions and applause. Today I know that everything a soul needs to be happy fits in a small backpack. Happiness isn't an event you reach, it's a state you cultivate while washing dishes, walking in the park, or watching a plant grow. I look at you now through this lens, with the fraternity of someone who has already made every mistake you're trying to avoid. If you feel that Monday anguish, if you hide in screens to avoid facing your loneliness, if you feel like you're just checking boxes in your own existence, stop. Don't wait for a medical diagnosis. Don't wait for a layoff letter. Don't wait until you're 84 to look back and say, "I wasted my life." Start planting your garden. Tomorrow is a promise the universe isn't obligated to keep, but now is an opportunity standing right in front of you. Thank you for listening this far. Now turn off this video, step away from the screen, and go inhabit your life. Be the presence someone is waiting for. Be the author of the story you'd be proud of if everything ended tomorrow.